regarding that is when it outlaws it, it outlaws with all the other forbidden relationships. The question is a forbidden relationship in and of itself, is that not allowed? Or it's only if it's done in a way where it's done in public. So then you have to. It's another discussion. It's not. We have to get into it. Anyway, how are you, my friend, my Orthodox Muslim friend? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Rabbi? You're
Good.
good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Just wondering why you're not a Muslim, man.
Because well, actually, I think the way Muslims have talked to me, I think I am a Muslim because they claim that Moses was Muslim, they claim that Jesus was Muslim. So if you claim anyone is Muslim, so I guess you could claim that I'm Muslim. But
No, you can't be a Muslim because you don't accept all the prophets.
okay, fine. So I guess I'm not a Muslim then. And I guess the
Yeah.
reason why I don't accept all the prophets is because there's no there's no requirement that I accept all the prophets, unless the prophet was coming to tell me something specifically. There's no need to accept prophets for all time. Where's that requirement? There's no requirement for that.
There's no requirement for you to accept prophets from God?
I have not seen a prophet. Have you seen a prophet? I have not met any prophet, not that I know of.
No, I'm saying if there's a prophet from God, you have to accept him.
What does that mean? Accept him.
You have to accept that his message is from God, that he's speaking the truth.
And what would that? How does that message affect me? None of the prophets really spoke to me personally, did they? The prophets really were speaking for their time and people of their time. Name what prophet do you mean is speaking for all time?
They don't have to speak for all time. You just have to affirm that their messenger is from God.
Why? Where's their requirement that I have to affirm the messenger is from God? And like for instance, if let's say even most Orthodox Jews, I think, the Tanakh is very long. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I could ask even a regular person on the street and ask him, okay, so what exactly did Micah tell you? Who was he, and what did he tell you? They may not know, they may not care, and the truth is, there's no requirement they have to go ahead and read him and figure out what he said and accept him. Where's that requirement?
Where's the requirement that you have to accept prophets from God?
Yeah. You can't just make it up. You got to have a source. Where's that requirement?
Okay, so could you reject Isaiah?
You reject Isaiah how? Isaiah, what he said doesn't really apply to me in 2025. He said, keep a Torah. Fine, I'm doing that. He said that God will kick us out of the land. It happened. He said that there certain things might happen. They happened. Okay, good. Now what? What's the requirement for me to wake up in the morning and say, I believe in Isaiah? There is no requirement.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, is it possible for you as a Jew to say Isaiah is not a prophet?
Is it possible for me to say that Isaiah was not a prophet
Yeah.
and to say whatever Isaiah said, I reject? So I would say probably it's probably a rabbinical issue. I think because when the men of the Great Assembly what is it? What's the word? Canonized or canonized the
Canonized.
books. They decided which ones to put in which. So they already made that decision. So I guess the way we have Tanakh is already set up by the men of the Great Assembly. So yes, there is a requirement to believe in what the men of the Great Assembly believe, because that requirement's in Deuteronomy 4:2 and Deuteronomy 13:1 and Deuteronomy 17:8. So we have to believe in when there are people who explain what the law is, we have to listen to them. So the men of the Great Assembly, sort of like the Talmud. If the Talmud told me who the prophets were, then yes, there would be a requirement for me to tell them to do that. But as far as anyone that was after the time of the Mishnah, I don't think there's any requirement.
Okay. So the requirement exists in the Torah. So I know you interpret Deuteronomy 18
Yeah,
to be regarding any prophet or just generally the prophets that'll come after
yeah, but
Moses.
but Deuteronomy 18:5 doesn't say 18:15 doesn't say specifically I have to believe in any past prophet. It's saying there will be people like Moses, like
And
you
it
said,
says you
Isaiah.
have to listen to
Isaiah's
their word.
exactly Isaiah, right? But again, Isaiah is not talking to me in 2025, is he?
Well,
I mean, to a certain
that's fine,
extent, I guess he
but you
could.
can't deny Isaiah, right? You can't deny Isaiah as a prophet.
The verse does not tell me I can't deny Isaiah.
So can you deny Isaiah as a Jew?
So I can't, because already the men of the Great Assembly.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Right, okay. So
if a messenger
I follow who the men of the Great Assembly stated who the prophets were.
I understand, but for example, in the time of Jeremiah, did the men of Great Assembly recognize Jeremiah to be a prophet?
First of all, there was no men of the Great Assembly at the time, and that was
but the leaders of Israel at the time, they didn't recognize Jeremiah, did they?
so a lot of them. So no, obviously he was jailed by the king himself.
Right, and Isaiah, there's a tradition that Isaiah was unalived, split in half by the leaders of Israel.
I don't know about Isaiah. I know that there was others.
No, the tradition is mentioned by Josephus and early writers.
Well,
but the point is,
I don't know about
the
that. I don't know
point
about him.
is,
I know there was another prophet that Zechariah. But anyway, go on.
yeah, the point, for example, Nehemiah says that the Israelites unalived the prophets, right?
They analyze one prophet.
No. Nehemiah says that they unalived the prophets. That's what Nehemiah says.
And therefore what? How does that lead me to anything?
Therefore, it could be the case that there is a true prophet is rejected by the leadership of Israel and is later identified to be a prophet.
Okay, that's possible.
Okay, cool.
Theoretically, that's possible. Sure.
Okay, cool. So now I'm asking you, why don't you accept that the Prophet Muhammad is a prophet from Hashem?
Why? Well, I would say there's two parts to this, and we're going in circles. Number one is, again, the men of the Great Assembly already stated who the prophets were, and there's any other prophet coming forward. There's no requirement to believe. Let's say there's a.
How do you know they were mistaken?
Let's say, well, again, even if they find that a greater court has to come, if a previous court could be mistaken, if a greater court comes up, if a greater court comes and changes it, then yes, but a greater court has not come and changed it. But let's assume for a moment that we don't go on that, and let's say we assume that Mohammad, for whatever reason, was an authentic prophet, which why I would think he would be from someone who was not from Israel, I don't know. And you can't point to that verse in Deuteronomy 15, because again, when it talks, first it says it comes from your midst, and it says it can be your kin, and every time it talks about your kin, it's always referring to another Israelite, but regardless. So let's say, now we have the question of Muhammad.
Well, just on that point quickly.
Yeah.
So I know the Masoretic text says, Navi akim laka meqerevka meqerev achika. That's what it says in the Masoretic. But in the earlier text, and I know you don't accept them, but they're still early witnesses, we have the Septuagint and the Samaritan texts that are earlier that read Navi akim laka meqerev achika. So not from the midst of you, from your brethren, but rather from the midst of your brethren. So then the reading becomes that the prophet comes from outside of Israel, not from within Israel.
No, it doesn't. What you just said does not say it comes from outside. It would have said mechutz, but it doesn't say mechutz. It says bekerev, from your midst. So you're saying the same thing.
No. So one says mekerev ka, and then the other says mekerev achika. So one says from your midst, from your brethren. The other says from the midst of your brethren.
What is the difference?
Things.
What is the difference?
So Maimonides actually brings this up as a defense in his letter to Yemen. He says the reason that the prophet can't be an Arab is because it says from the midst of Israel.
Right.
The problem is the earlier readings.
No, not the midst. Forget the. First of all, you don't believe in the Rambam because you don't follow the Rambam. So don't bring up someone you don't follow.
I don't need to follow.
Second of all, the Rambam didn't follow Muhammad either. So you're going to bring up someone who did not follow Muhammad. You're going to bring up someone who does not. It's not a proof. Bring up someone who actually followed him. Then you can have a proof. Okay. But
But if
anyway,
he fought,
it doesn't. The word is the
Rabbi,
word.
if he followed
Listen,
him, you wouldn't.
if you
If
talk
he
over me,
followed him,
if you talk over me,
all right, no
okay,
problem.
okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about
If
that.
you if the word, forget about bekerev, which by the way I don't know why you're arguing whether it says within your midst or within the midst of your brothers. The word brothers means the Israelites, because in Leviticus when it says the priests must marry a woman from their brothers, it does not mean they marry Ishmael women. So the word
That,
that never means someone who's outside of the family. But
so,
again, I'm putting that aside.
can I
I'm
reply
putting
to
that
that?
aside, and let's talk about Muhammad himself.
Can I reply to what you just said,
No,
please?
no, no. Let's. I need to answer your question because there are a lot of people waiting, and we got to move this
I
along.
just want to reply to what you said about the
Yeah.
Levites. Okay, so regarding the Levites, that argument actually refutes you because you admit that the Levites have to marry from their brethren, and here it only includes the Levites, right?
What only includes the Levites?
That Levites only marry Levites, right?
No, first of all, that's not true. A Kohen, a priest, is allowed to marry from any tribe. What are you talking
No,
about?
what you just mentioned when it says the Levites marry from their brethren,
I
what
said
is
the
the
priests,
context for
the
that?
Kohen, and the priests.
Yeah, the priests, right?
Yeah.
What is the context of that?
The
When it says
context
their
is who they're
brethren,
allowed to
what is that
marry.
referring to?
It's referring to who they're allowed to marry.
And they're allowed to marry from who?
Anyone from their brethren.
And their brethren are who exactly? The Levites or just any tribe of
12,
Israel?
the 12 tribes of Israel.
Okay,
Priests
perfect.
priests
So,
normally marry outside of their tribe.
okay, perfect. So that's why I mentioned this is actually an argument against you, because you said here their brethren is referring to Israel. But the reason that can't work in Deuteronomy 18 is because Israel is being spoken as one person. Okay? So the brethren of Israel cannot be within Israel. That's point number
It doesn't
one.
mention the word
Just let
Israel in
me
that
just let me
verse.
finish.
It doesn't mention the word Israel in that
I
verse.
know, but I'm not saying it. You just have to let
Moses
me
was
finish.
talking to the entire congregation.
But can I
A
finish?
prophet will come up like
You're cutting me off,
Moses
man.
from among your brethren. But again, let's put that aside.
But
And let's
you're
talk
not letting
about
me. You're not letting me finish. That's the problem, man. You just cut me off in the middle. I just wanted to finish. And by the way, Israelites are called the brethren of Ishmael in Genesis. It says he'll be a wild donkey of a man, and he will live in hostility amongst his brethren. His brethren there, according to all rabbinic commentaries, are the children of Isaac. So yes, Ishmaelites are called the brethren of
first of
Israel.
all, that's only one of many of his kin that's at that time. Again, but we're trying to talk about a time when Israel's a nation. So brethren means the nation.
No, it can't here
Sure, because
because
Abraham called Lot his kin, but he also called people who were not necessarily related to him. He called Eshcol, Aner, and Mamre his kin. So anyway,
so are the Ishmaelites the brethren of Israel?
are the Ishmaelites the brethren of Israel? It depends on what context. He's talking about.
Beautiful. There you go.
There we
That's
go.
my
What?
point. You said when it says brethren, it can't refer to outside of Israel.
Correct.
So you just conceded that it can refer to Ishmaelites. And I'm telling you, the context makes that reading necessary for two reasons. It's because if you read verse 15, the whole point is that the congregation doesn't want to hear the voice of God anymore because it's too scary. They can't stand it. And they speak of themselves in the singular. They says, let me not hear the voice of the Lord my God, lest I die. And then God says, in the singular, referring to Israel as one person, that the
Yeah,
prophet will be from the brothers of Israel. So if I tell you, Rabbi Mordy, is that your name, Rabbi Mordy?
that is my name.
If
Yeah.
I tell you, I'll give $5 to your brother, does that include you?
Does that include me?
Yeah.
$5, my brother's my brother. Yeah. So okay,
So it doesn't include you, right?
right.
So if Israel is spoken of as one person, and the prophet comes from the midst of Israel's brothers, it cannot be from Israel, which confirms Deuteronomy.
So you're confirming also that the priests have to marry Ishmaelite women. Because the brother,
No,
it means
it's
Ishmaelite, so
contextual.
therefore, exactly, contextual. So when
Yeah.
Moses is talking to the entire nation, he's saying that there will be another prophet from amongst your kin, right? So that
That's
means
the
from
Ishmaelites.
no, it isn't. First of all,
It is.
how do you know
Prove it
it's
to you.
Ishmaelites? Why isn't it Esav? Why isn't it Edom?
Good
Why
question.
isn't it Midian? Why isn't it anyone else? Why Ishmael?
Good question. Good question. From this verse alone, we don't know that it's Ishmael. But from
Exactly.
let me finish.
But
From the
you know what we know from the verse alone. I'll tell you what we know from the verse
just let
alone.
me finish.
We
Okay,
have
go
you
ahead.
ever no? Let me finish. Have you
Okay.
ever heard of prophet? I think you mentioned him before, Isaiah, right? So
Yeah.
where did Isaiah come from?
He's an Israelite, of course.
Isaiah fulfills verse Deuteronomy 18:15. Who does Samuel? What is Samuel? Samuel fulfills that verse. All the prophets in the entire Tanakh all came from Israel. They all fulfill that verse. So why should I think that all of a sudden there's going to be some other prophet that comes from some other nation?
Okay, I'll tell you. Because that interpretation is a late rabbinic interpretation and not an ancient interpretation of the Jews. We know historically from ancient writings like the Dead Sea Scroll, from even the attestation found in the Gospels. I know you don't believe them to be the Word of God, but there's still historical data nevertheless. We know that was interpreted to be a future prophet like Moses. As a matter of fact, the
There was,
Maccabees.
like I said, there was a future
Let me
prophet like Moses.
just let me
All the
finish.
prophets in the prophets were the future prophet.
Okay, so just let me finish. This has historically been interpreted as a future singular figure. And that is exactly what the text says. The text doesn't say there's many prophets. The text says there's one prophet that will come and he will be like Moses, which Deuteronomy says there's no one in Israel that will ever be like Moses. Do you concede that?
There was never been a prophet like Moses, correct?
And the rabbis understand that to be never in Israel a prophet
One
like
second.
Moses.
Again, you bring the rabbis up. The rabbis do not believe in Muhammad, so you can't you can't
They
bring,
don't have to.
you can't
I'm using their
bring up a
interpretation.
source from say, oh, the rabbis interpret it this way, and therefore it must be this. No, again, that verse is very, very clear. I don't know where you're getting from that in the Dead Sea Scrolls, by the way, which was dated till well to the end of the Second Temple period, and yet all these other prophets that rose up and fulfilled that verse in Deuteronomy already, and they all were Israelite people.
They
Okay,
didn't
so
understand it that way, though. That's
of
the
course,
point.
everyone understood it that way.
Can you show me a single ancient figure before rabbinic Judaism, before the Talmud, before the Mishnah that understood it that way?
There's no, except for the Tanakh itself. There's no commentary on the Tanakh that
There is.
predates the Talmud.
There's the Targum Jonathan that predates the Talmud.
No, it
There's the
doesn't. No, it doesn't. The Targum Yonasan
Jonathan-
was written after the Talmud.
It does. No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
It was not. The Talmud.
Yes, it was.
is-
First of all, the Medrash
Dude,
was
you
written.
keep cutting me off.
Yes, because you're saying things that are nonsense. The Medrash was written after the Mishnah was written, toward the later period of the Talmud, and all the way up to the 1200s. So Targum Yonasan did not exist by the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay, so can I finish?
No,
Okay.
I'm going to go on. I'm going to go on to
Okay,
the other
finish?
point. And if you can't,
finish?
no, go on to the other point. And the other point is going back. So therefore, we already have that verse fulfilled. And let's say you want to say that for some reason, after the prophets were already were all from Israel, that somehow some other nation's going to have a prophet, which by the way is not unique because we had Balaam. Balaam was a prophet from. By the way, Balaam was a prophet from, according to your own interpretation, from kin, right? He came from Lavan's family, so technically he was kin to Abraham somehow. So we already had a non-Jewish prophet, but let's say some non-Jewish prophet's going to come up for whatever reason. I don't even know why the logic even makes sense, but for some reason, 600 years after the temple's destroyed, some other prophet's going to come up in Arabia. And he's going to say what? What did he say that contradicts the Torah?
Yeah, so the prophet from Arabia is the light to the Gentiles. He is the fulfillment.
So therefore, why do I have to believe in him?
I'll tell you. Because this prophet is a prophet that comes after the Jews broke their covenant with God and the Torah is done away with. And now the universal law.
There's no such thing as Torah being done away with. It's impossible.
There is.
It's impossible.
I'll tell you, it's not impossible.
Because
can I just respond? Because yeah. So according to Rabbi Joseph Elbow, he writes that it is possible for the Torah to be done away with under the condition that a prophet greater than Moses arises. Do you agree?
I completely disagree.
Okay, so
And does Joseph Albo decide that the Muhammad was the true prophet?
no, because Joseph Albo let me finish. Joseph Albo thinks nobody can be greater than Moses.
Because the Torah says no one can be greater than Moses.
No, in Israel only. In Israel only.
Where does it
Remember,
say? No, what do you mean? Is it Israel only?
He says there's no. Deuteronomy says there will never arise a prophet greater than Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face.
So one second. So you're claiming that a prophet. You're claiming that a prophet who did not speak face to face to God because he spoke only through Angel Gabriel.
He did.
No, he didn't. He spoke only through Angel Gabriel.
No,
he also was illiterate. He also was illiterate. He could not write.
Was illiterate.
And you're saying that that's a prophet that's greater than Moses? No.
Yes, Amos was illiterate. Amos was illiterate, by the way.
Who's Amos?
The prophet Amos.
Oh, Amos. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
So he's illiterate. He's illiterate, right? He doesn't come from.
He wasn't greater than Moses.
Okay, but you just said he was illiterate.
Your criteria is that it's possible somehow that the covenant cannot be filled if a prophet is greater than Moses from outside of Israel, and your only prophet you could possibly point to is Muhammad, and you're saying that Muhammad, who never spoke face to face to God, who only spoke through Angel Gabriel, which by the way Abraham did also, and
he did speak face to face.
No, he didn't.
He did. It's mentioned in the Quran.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. He spoke only through the angel of Gabriel.
No, the prophet was. I'm going to tell you now. The prophet spoke to God face to face in his night journey when he was transported.
A night journey, which is a vision, which is not face to face, while he's awake, like Moses was able to.
It's not a vision. It's not a vision. By the way.
All right. A lot of other people are waiting, and he's just going to spew his misfacts and misdirection. Barry, how are you?
Hey, good, Rabbi. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry for the wait. I'm sorry. I usually try to move it along faster.
I'll keep this short. I was just curious, in the ancient texts, were animal sacrifices common?
In the ancient, yes. I mean, we have. First of all, outside of the Torah itself, a lot of historical texts say that animal sacrifice was common, but we also have